On this episode of Narcissist Apocalypse, we talk with an abuse survivor named Amelia. And Amelia grew up in an abusive household and eventually dated a narcissist who seemed to always have one foot out the door. It's a story of family trauma, people-pleasing, self-worth, and feeling like you're good enough. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, a podcast that gives a voice to survivors of narcissistic abuse. I am Brandon Chadwick, but my friends call me Chad, and thanks for tuning into this episode. So what is a narcissist, you may ask? Well, for the purposes of this podcast, we refer to a narcissist as anyone who has displayed a pattern of behavior that shows a limited capacity to appreciate others' perspectives. It is that simple. And now, before we get to our episode here with Amelia, I just want to first thank everyone in the Narcissist Apocalypse community for listening to the show and sharing your thoughts by email, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, a reminder, if you have not left us a review on whatever podcast service you use, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, CastBox, etc., please leave us a 5-star written review as it helps out the show when it comes to rankings. Now, if you want to be on our show, go to our website at narcissistapocalypse.com. There's a button at the top of the page. It says guest form. Click on that button, fill out the form, send it my way. I'll go over it. We'll go email back and forth. We'll go through a whole entire process. And if you've not heard back from me yet, sometimes I've sent emails back and it goes to your junk mail. So please check your junk mail. And to the other people that haven't heard back from me yet, I'll get to your emails very shortly. I used to have a bunch of them, so I have to get through them. And let's see here. Other things that are going on our website. We are now offering high conflict parenting courses that can be found at narcissistapocalypse.com/courses. Yes, we have now partnered with online parenting, and many of the courses we are offering were created by Bill Eddy. And if you've listened to our episode last year with a divorce lawyer named Helen, you'll know that Bill Eddy is an expert in dealing with these individuals in court, and now he's helped create many parenting courses to help you through divorce and to help support your children too. These courses are the most widely recognized courses by family courts across the country. So if you want to support the show and are looking for guidance, please do go to narcissistapocalypse.com/courses. But do you know what else helps support the show? Our Patreon. Yes, we started a Patreon. If you want to hear episodes that never made it to air, follow-up episodes with former guests, and much, much more, join our Patreon at patreon.com/narcissistapocalypse. We also started an Instagram and YouTube channel with fun pop culture videos. I'm going to try and put out a new video, I think, after I record this. It's more of an informational video, but I will try and get that out before this evening is done. And we're also creating new Instagram channels. We have one called Canada Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. It's all in Canadian postcards. It's really cutesy. We discuss big topics, though. We discuss PTSD, CPTSD, and trauma in general. And so find us there on Instagram with our new Instagram at Canada Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder. And now, it's time for me to get out of my way and your way. Here is my conversation with Amelia. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse. With me today, I have Amelia. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I am doing well, and thank you for being here with me. Where you are, it's in the morning. For me, it's nighttime. Most people might be starting to go to bed right now, but this is the furthest away we've ever done a call.
Is it? Okay.
I think so. So I'm just going to get out of my way and your way, and the floor, Amelia, is now yours.
Thank you. Okay. So I'll start at the beginning. I'm the second youngest of 4 adopted children. We're all from different birth parents. My 2 oldest siblings were born and adopted in Sydney, which is where my adopted mother and father were born. Myself and younger brother were born in Melbourne. I don't remember ever not knowing that myself and my siblings were adopted. It was not hidden from us. It was who we were. We were the chosen ones. We were special, as per my mum. So here we were, a family settled in Melbourne. My adopted father had a very well-paying job with a big car company that was based in Geelong. My mum didn't work outside the home, nor did she drive. She had enough work to look after 4 children under the age of 8. My earliest memories of my adoptive father are all fear-based. He was an imposing figure. He was probably close to 6 foot. He was balding and he had this prominent mouth. Not buck teeth as such, but maybe you could describe it as a big mouth. From the earliest of age, I could feel his contempt and hatred toward me. When he looked at me, it was not with loving eyes of a father. And I knew this from such an early age, probably from around the age of 4 years old. I can honestly say I do not have one fond memory of him. As it would come to pass, my adopted father was a pedophile. I didn't understand it. Like, I was maybe 12, 13, just when you're starting to hit puberty, and he was the only father I knew, and I knew I felt sick and I felt uncomfortable and I didn't understand, but I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't talk to anyone about it. And I still really haven't spoken to my sister about that stuff. We do a little bit, but we touch on it, but we don't really go into great detail. Down the track, many years later, his pedophile ways came out and more people came forward, other family members, extended family, family friends. When he was confronted with these accusations, his response was that anything he may have done was consensual and they were asking for it. I'm not sure how a child could give consent or be asking for it. I'll never understand that. And I guess now looking at it, he was completely delusional and he was a pedophile. So that's just how it is. So I guess this is my experience of what a father is. Needless to say, when I would go to my friends' houses, I was absolutely terrified of their fathers. My motto for life very early became just be invisible. Fly so far under the radar that no one will notice you. Keep your head down at all times and don't make eye contact with any male figure. That was, for as long as I can remember, that's how I thought. And I remember walking along the street with my best friend and she would constantly put her hand under my chin and make me lift my head up because I constantly, and I still do it now, you know, and I'm 50 years old and I'm still walking with my head down and just, you know, fly under that radar, don't get noticed. So my life at home was chaotic. Mum struggled to raise 4 children. with pretty much no help financially from my adopted father. We were living under the poverty line, and as soon as I was old enough, I got a job after school as a checkout chick, just at Kmart. Anything to take the pressure off Mum. Life was a constant state of unease. My younger brother was the centre of the universe. I remember one moment when I was sitting on my mum's lap. My brother wanted to sit on her lap, and he basically started crying and having a tantrum. And I said to Mum, "That's okay. I'll get off your lap and he can sit there." And I remember Mum praising me for my kindness and for putting my brother's needs before my own. And I guess this began my people-pleasing ways. It was always do what makes other people happy. The inner dialogue was people will love you and value you if you make life all about them. For as long as I can remember, my brother was a loose cannon. The theme of my life was, don't upset Ben. If he felt slighted in any way, he would fly off the handle. Windows broken out, him assaulting my mum. He was like a tornado of violence. So my entire life was about Ben. Tread carefully around him, say nothing, don't rock the boat. I just lived in a constant state of anxiety.
So that shaped your idea of what your relationships will be.
Yes, it did. It was that pit feeling in your stomach of unease.
Did you know that at the time when you were about to get into the relationship that we're about to talk about?
No, I didn't, because as it turned out, I met my ex-husband when I was 15. So we were in the same group of friends, and so he was my childhood sweetheart. He's a good man. I clung to him and thought, okay, I have someone that loves me. A couple of years into the relationship, he did try and break it off with me, and I remember I cried so much and was so distressed. He relented and we stayed together. So at the age of 19, I fell pregnant with my first son. I think it was an unconscious sort of decision to not be careful with contraceptives. I would constantly forget to take the pill. I sort of knew I was running the gauntlet. Some part of my brain thought, okay, if I have a baby, this baby will have to love me and will never leave me. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think in some part of my head that's how I thought. It will be an unconditional love. So anyway, so here we are. We're a young couple, barely out of our teenage years, looking after this beautiful little life. My ex-husband was a good partner and a great father. We both loved our son endlessly. But our relationship was probably more based on friendship. We had basically grown up together and were figuring out this family business. In a romantic sense, sex was just something I did to please him. My needs didn't matter, and he didn't seem to care if I was enjoying it or not. And this is pretty embarrassing. You can cut it out if you like, but for over 15 years I never had an orgasm with him. I was too shy and I didn't want to cause any fuss. And if he was happy, then that was all that mattered. And I just thought, okay, this is my life and this is how it is. And as it turned out, I had another son with him, and I was 25 at the time. So my life revolved around my boys and ensuring that they had the love and security as kids that I didn't have. And I was studying my nursing and I was working. And my husband and I were just like mates living together, and we'd have sex, and it was just about him. So this continued on to about 2009, 2010. And then I found out that he'd been having an affair with a woman down at the footy club, so pedestrian. And I remember feeling really betrayed and heartbroken that my best friend had lied to me and betrayed me. And I wasn't jealous of him having sex with her, and I guess that's a bit weird. It was just a feeling of who is he? Who are you? Who have I been with all these years? And how could you betray me like that? So, needless to say, I couldn't deal with the betrayal. I didn't hate him, and I sort of understood why he did what he did. And it was just about my sons. I would never change the view they had of their father because he's a good dad. And what he did was a shitty thing, but he was still a good father at the end of the day. And I couldn't hate him because he'd always been good to me apart from that. So we split up, and my sons and I moved to a suburb not far from where we originally lived. My ex-husband, he went on to have a couple of relationships. He's in a relationship now. He's always been there emotionally, like I can chat to him, and he's helped me financially. I think he's done that out of guilt, and I don't want to make him feel guilty, but I think he feels terrible about what happened. But anyway, so then I was on my own for 5 years, and I was on and off dating sites, going on a few dates here and there, and not really connecting with anyone. I just, inside myself, I felt nothing. I just felt nothing. I would put myself in risky positions and just go out and pick up random, often age-inappropriate men. I had no self-care and would wipe myself off with alcohol, sleep with random men, and I just didn't give a shit about myself. So when I met my narc, I had been on this date site for a couple of weeks, and I was contemplating deleting it because I was like, I'm over this. And then I matched with him. And I thought, oh, well, I'll meet up and see what happens. I went in with no expectations. I'd become a little disillusioned with the whole dating world. After a few text messages, we organised to meet at a restaurant close by. He lived 3 kilometres away from me, which seemed a real bonus at the time. So we met, and instantly I liked him. He was charismatic and bigger than life personality. He regaled stories about his work and family, and it was just so entertaining. He made me laugh non-stop with his storytelling. His smile lit up his whole face. I was instantly smitten with him, and I hadn't been smitten with anyone for a really long time. After the first date, we kept in touch via text. He was messaging me for advice. He told me that he'd had a sudden onset of a splitting headache, and because I'm a nurse, he was texting me and asking me questions, and I said, well, look, you should probably get some medical attention, which he did. And the whole time he was in the emergency room, he was updating me on what they were doing and how he was going. Like, this is only within the first week of us meeting. And he was telling me how amazing and smart I was, and so he was discharged that day, and I think they said he had a migraine or something. But from then, the love bombing began. He put me, I was the kindest, most selfless person he had ever met. He'd not met anyone as kind as me. I was amazing, and he didn't know how I did my job, and it must be so tough. And what a caring person I am. I was on the highest pedestal. He would relay to his family and friends how amazing I was to be such a kind caregiver. Now I think back, I'm not sure how long this love bomb phase went for. It wasn't long. Like, I've listened to your other podcasts, and he was a little bit different that way. Like, it really wasn't that long, and if other people may have, because the insidious devalue was there quite early in the piece.
When you were in the love bombing stage, were you, I guess, did you tell him the story of how you kind of grew up, and were you able to voice your opinions on things? So
that's where...
And that he was listening to what you had to say?
Yeah, that's where he differs a little bit from other people I've heard about. He didn't really want to know about it. I told him little bits and pieces about how I grew up and what was happening and the marriage and all of that stuff. And he would listen, but the conversation would end up turning about him. And he would talk about his brother or, so he listened somewhat and seemed to show empathy. But I think I knew really early that it wasn't legit.
Okay.
But I clung on to that initial, you are amazing, you are so good, you're the best girlfriend, blah, blah. Like I kept focusing on that rather than these little red flags, I suppose.
So he'd always something would be about something within your family context, and then he would always take that story and make it into, there's a story in my life that revolves around the same thing.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah. The conversation always ended up about him. Now I look back, but I'm polite and I, just let him go. But it's a really gradual sort of the devalue. It was. I remember at times feeling that that unease in the pit of my stomach, but then in the next breath he was praising me and telling me how great I was. So the relationship sort of went to the next level, I guess. By the second date, I was over at his place and he, was financially quite comfortable. He had two houses pretty much side by side and he was renting the house next door to renters. And so he was quite, he had to have the best of everything. His outdoor area was the best. Everything was the best. And, so he cooked dinner for me on that second date at his place. And again, he just made me laugh. The way he would tell stories and to make me laugh was sort of how he got me, I guess. So the night progressed and we had a few drinks and I was laughing and it was going really well. And so I stood up and I went to give him a hug and this is on the second date, and immediately he went sort of rigid and sort of he's given me like a robotic type hug. And then he sort of pushed me away and said something along the lines of, I don't do the hugging and stuff. And, it was like man's man doesn't do that affection thing. And I remember I was a bit taken aback but thought, oh, well, not everyone is openly affectionate and that's okay. So I ended up staying over. We had sex, and at first it seems uncomfortable, which is not unusual when you haven't been with someone before. And but he wasn't overly affectionate, and if he was, it seemed forced and fake. So that first time that we had sex was the only time he openly kissed me, and the only time we had sex in the missionary position. I don't know if this is too much information, but it seems to be.
It's your story.
Yeah. So he told me that he only enjoyed sex if he was behind me. And I remember thinking, okay, that's a bit weird, but whatever, okay. My motto was, as usual, as long as he's happy, that's all that matters. And now I think about it, and the more I've read and listened to, I believe the way he had sex was his way of avoiding intimacy. it was very clinical and no real sense of closeness. So our relationship continued along like that. He worked away during the week, so I'd come over on a Friday night. His daughter would come over on the Saturday night. He had a daughter from a relationship like 16 years ago, or 20 years ago now. And he hadn't been with the mum pretty much since his daughter was born. But they still remained, she was still very, very involved, the ex-partner, in his life, to the point where she was there every weekend before she started driving herself. The mum would bring her over and the mum would stay pretty much. So it would be myself, him, the ex and the daughter. You know, one time we all went out for lunch together and I just thought, okay, she's really involved, but, you know, I understand he wants to keep things nice for his daughter and, you know, no dramas, but she was really involved to the next level. She was paying all of his bills. So I remember he would hand her just a pile of bills, and she would do all his banking for him. It was just weird. It was like the role of a wife, all the wifely duties, but not sleeping with him. Like she'd bid all the family birthdays, functions, so it'd be me and her. Like she was just part of the family, which is, and I'm not bagging that because I think it's nice to still maintain a good relationship with the mother of your child, but it was to that next level where it was just weird.
Did you feel like you were a third wheel in their relationship? Okay. Absolutely.
I was just the visitor that lived around the corner. So it would say if it was his birthday, she would be over and she'd be in the kitchen, like getting stuff ready for his family for the dinner. And I'm like, where's, like, we've been in the relationship a couple of years, then like, what's my role here? I'm just old mate during, around the corner.
During that time, like at what point was he devaluing you? And So what kind of things was he doing as far as tactics go, as far as making you feel, I guess, afraid, guilt, and all those things?
Yeah, look, I think the first red flag I remember was really early in the piece. We were driving down the beach to go to his family's holiday home, and it was the first time I'd been on a road trip with him. It was just over the weekend or whatever, and we're in the car, and his level of rage at other drivers was I've never seen anything like it. I just did not comprehend why he was so angry. He was abusing people and like people who were doing nothing wrong, like what I thought. And I remember saying to him, what's wrong? What are you doing? And he just gave me this look, like, and it just shut me up. I can't even tell you. It was just like, don't tell me what to do. If I want to abuse these people, that sort of look. And so that was the first sort of, I was just like, why are you so angry? And then the constant, he would tell me, oh, you're so lucky, Amelia. You're so lucky to be with me. He would tell me that every time I saw him. And then he would throw in these little snide remarks, but he would hide it under the veil of a joke. Like, for example, I've got freckles, and I have some freckles on my legs. And I remember him saying, oh, I've never seen a girl with freckles on her legs. And I was like, what? And I just remember thinking, oh, is that a bad thing? Okay. It just made me feel shit about myself. And he would say mean things about people just on the street, like especially if people were a bit heavy weight-wise. the contempt that he had for these people. Like, he would see someone going for a walk, and they might be on the heavier side, and he would just say something really shitty about them. And I was like, well, what are you doing? Why are you being so mean? And I've, my weight has fluctuated over the years, and it's one of my insecurities. I'm a bit paranoid about putting on weight, and so he would just say things like, if I had a bit of bread, he would say something about the bread being, that goes straight to your thighs or whatever, and it's just like I would become paranoid about what I would eat in front of him. Well, you should feel just comfortable with someone. But I didn't. And he would say, I have my two sons, both electricians by trade, which is a good trade and well-paying job. But he would make snide remarks about electricians as it's a soft trade, and so he would sort of insult my sons, but then go, I'm only joking, Amelia. And I'm like, well, hang on, I think you've just insulted my sons. That's not very nice. But then he would turn it in a way that it was a joke, or he would make me laugh about something else, and then it was still there, but I'd sort of push it to the side, I guess. And I remember him saying, because his daughter was the centre of the world. She was actually a nice girl, and I feel sorry for her when I think about it, having a narcissist for a father. But basically he told me that it would be, if anything happened to her, it would be so much worse for him than if I lost one of my sons, because I would still have one son. And nobody loved their children or their child as much as he loved his daughter. Like, he sort of devalued the love. Like, it'd be like, oh, well, one son has passed away, but I've got the other one. So, that's what he was sort of insinuating. I'm like, you can't be serious. What are you talking about? I said, I love my sons equally. Oh, my God, if I lost one of my sons. And he would just say things like that, and it was just weird. And I remember I was over there, and I can't remember what I said that upset him, but I'll never forget the change in his face. I can't remember what it was about, but I looked at him and his whole face changed, and his eyes, I swear to God, they turned black. And I remember feeling, oh, my God, like I'm looking at pure evil right now. And then as soon as it was there, it was gone. And I just thought, what is going on there, But maybe, because he didn't sleep very well, and he'd be awake 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and that's when I think he would have what he perceived as his intimate times. Like, he would talk to me and say how anxious he's feeling and that he's a shit person. Like, I think on some level he knew that he was a shit person, that he is a shit person. And so I would try and reassure him and tell him, no, you're great. You work hard. You're a good father. Like, I would give him this constant praise and reassurance. No, you're a good person. So, yeah, you might drink too much some days and say things that are pretty shitty, but, at the end of the day, you're a good person, and I really wanted to make him feel safe and okay. And I thought, with my love, I could fix whatever is going on here. If I just love him enough and I'd be as kind and just fly under the radar and just don't upset him and just love him, he will be a good man. I know that it sounds silly, but yeah, and clearly that didn't work. He hated all my friends. Like the few times he did meet, like he was just not interested in my life. And like this, when I was writing down some of the stuff with the devalue that he did, it was it's really quite. When you do write it down, I was looking at the pages of stuff, and I was like, why did I stay? I actually don't know.
So when you did read what you had written down, and you looked over it, how, I guess, I know, we still have probably a lot to go here, but and when you did look at it, were you, did you feel better?
Yes, maybe in a way. I feel a little embarrassed that he did this so quite, early. And, and when I've listened to your other podcasts, a lot of the narcs are very keen to move quickly with the relationship as far as moving in together and progressing in this relationship, where he wasn't like that. He liked the fact that he worked away during the week, and then I'd come over on the weekend, and it would all be about him on the weekend, and just all about him. Like in 3 years, he met my sons 3 times. So he came to my house twice.
So he had a completely different life than you. Yeah. I was just the person that come over on a Friday night and bring him a slab of beer and sit there and drink with him. Like I never drank as much as I did as when I was with him. And I think I did that because I was in this constant state of anxiety around him. So I would drink, and then I'd get a little bit of, if he did start saying snide sort of things, I would maybe retaliate because I did have a few drinks on board, and then we would fight, and I'd end up driving home, around the corner, but still I probably shouldn't have been driving. But So did you feel like you were in a relationship with him, but he was not in a relationship with you?
Yes.
But did you feel it during that time?
I felt he was telling me all the things I wanted to hear. Like we both wanted to settle, eventually move down by the coast, go up north, go travel around in like an RV around Australia, and he would say, yeah, Millie, we're going to do this, it'll be amazing. And we would go and look at like RVs, and so he sort of
he was dangling a carrot of your future together in front of you.
Yes. But there was no follow through. There was no follow through. It just continued the way it was, and I could see he was just telling me these things. But at the time, I believed it, and I thought, I'll just wait.
I have no idea what eventually happens in the story, but I'm going to ask a question right now. Was he in a relationship with anyone else during this time that you found out?
Well, look, because he worked away during the week.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I used to worry about, and he knew that because my ex-husband had an affair, so I was probably, a little paranoid about that. But he used to say to me, I have never cheated on my girlfriends, ever. And I think that's true, but he could say if we had a fight on the Saturday, he went and we'd broken up, or, he's like, I don't want to see you again, and piss off, whatever. So in his mind, we would be broken up, so he could go away for work. And if he met someone, technically he wouldn't be cheating because we were fighting and broken up at the time. So I don't actually know.
Just like out of that Friends episode where Ross says they were on break.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in his mind, I guess, no, he hasn't cheated. But I actually don't know for sure. But I know it sort of all came to a head when, because I was just like, my friends noticed. I just wasn't happy. And my best friend, I was speaking to her, every week, and I'm just saying, I just don't, he said this to me, he did that to me, and she's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? He's awful. Piss him off. And she'd met him and he didn't like her straight up. And she's just like, you need to get out of this. Look at you. I was just so depressed and anxious. And so I started, we'd break up and then he would love bomb me and because he was away, I'd think, okay, I'll go over there on the Friday and I'm going to talk to him because I don't understand what's happening right now. Like, I don't understand why you're saying these shit things or, making me feel like crap. And he would drink too much and he would really be nasty with some of the stuff he said. And so I'd go over there on the Friday and have what I thought a clear list of things that I wanted to talk about and just put out on the table. And I remember he would open the front door and he'd go, oh, Amelia, you're so crazy. What are you doing? And he would hug me. And it wasn't a proper hug. Like, it was just superficial. And he would say, you're so crazy. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know why, because I could have been sending him a few text messages through the week. Just, this is, I'm fed up, whatever. And then when I would try and talk about what was bothering me in the relationship, he would spin the conversation. He was the master of spin. And in the end, I would forget what I was actually complaining about to start with. And because he had spun it around and I guess now gaslighting me and going, no, it didn't happen like that. You're crazy. Like, I don't know how many times I heard I'm crazy. And I really believed maybe I am crazy. Maybe it is me. And even now I still struggle with that. And I think, is it me? I don't know. So I sort of, the relationship just wasn't going anywhere. We were together on and off for like 3 years. And there was just no progression. There was no talk of, like in my age group, you would start talking about living together or having a future. And he would sort of talk about the future, but not really. He said, you wouldn't want to live with me. I would, I'd do your head in, and which is probably true now. So in my mind, I thought, okay, I need to sort of bring this to a head because I can't keep going back and forward like I am. So I said to him, look, if we're not going to progress and move in together or, have some sort of plan for the future, then I'm going to take this job in Queensland, up north. I'm not getting any younger. I want to see a bit of Australia, so I'm going to take this job. I guess in hindsight, I sort of gave him an ultimatum, which I know you probably shouldn't do. But I think in my mind I wanted him to say, oh, no, you can't go. Please don't leave, let's work this out. So he called my bluff, I guess. So basically I packed all my stuff in a car. I rented a unit that was furnished up north. I left my son, who is still living with me, and my 2 dogs. I got in the car with 3 other girlfriends that came up with me. We drove up to Queensland, which is like a 2-day trip. And the day after, or was it the day I got there? Anyway, the day after, I got a text message from him and it said, hey, you just walked past me, and then kiss, kiss. And my heart stopped for a moment. I thought, oh, my God, he's come up here. He's come up here to get me to tell me that he loves me and he wants to make this work and, come home. And so I sent him a message. I was like, what? And then he sent a message back going, oh, sorry, it's not meant for you.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. And my heart just stopped. I thought, like, this was the day, like, as I found out later, he had already started this other relationship with this girl prior to me even leaving the state. So up until pretty much the week or 2 weeks before I left, the door was still sort of open, and I was hoping we were still in communication, and, you know, we didn't physically see each other, but, you know, I still had this hope that he would, you know, want me to stay. And then when I got that message, I was like, oh my God. So that was the day after I, you know, had got up to a different state and was going to be starting a new job, and he had replaced me, you know, already. And I was enraged. Oh my God. I was so angry. I sent him, like, the abuse that I gave him via text. So we had this on and off. So I lasted up north 5 months.
Yes. So while you're there, you get that text.
Yeah.
I mean, I in the history of the show, I don't react that much, and that was a real natural reaction of, you know, sitting back here. So, I mean, at that point, I mean, you must have spiraled. I would have spiraled. And
I spiraled so I thought I was losing my mind, and here I was away from, so my friends had flown back home. They drove up with me and they got me settled in this unit. Then the message happened, and then they weren't even there for it. Oh, they were there for the message, but then they flew home the next day.
Yeah.
So they were trying to just distract me from this whole thing, but I was losing my mind.
That's like the equivalent of, like, oh, I just won the lottery.
Yeah.
And then someone saying, like, just taking all of the money back. And because it was so perfect timing, because we were actually just headed out for dinner. Like, we were the timing of this text was perfect, because it was quite feasible that I could have just walked past him if he had come up, you know. It was beyond bizarre and just mind-blowing. So in that 5 months, did you struggle? Did you drink or anything like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was living in a warmer part of Australia, up north. So I was living on my own. I was working at a new job, new hospital, you know, and I was making friends at work, but it was more so just like I didn't have anyone after work to sort of catch up with. So I was really isolated. I would come home from work and I'd just walk down to the beach and go to the beach, and then I might go to the surf club, and I would start drinking after work. And I was drinking every day when I was up there after work, because I was coming home to an empty unit. And, you know, here where I am now, I've got my 2 dogs, I've got my son, I've got my sister around the corner. Like, I've got my best friend a few suburbs away. But up there, I was running away from him, but in hindsight, it was not a good idea, because I was completely isolated from my family and friends. And we were having this text war, because I would be lying awake at night thinking, oh, my God, I can't believe he's moved on, you know, and he sent me that text. And so I would send him a rageful text in the middle of the night, and then it would start for a few days. We would have this war between us, and he would say awful things to me and I'd say awful things to him. So as it turned out, I was really sinking up there, and my mental health was not doing good. So I ended up speaking to the manager at work, and I just said, look, I need to go home. I need to be with my family right now. So I packed all my stuff in the car again, and I just drove back to Melbourne and, you know, we were still in touch here and there, you know, and I know, like, after reading all the stuff that I've read and listening to all the stuff, I should have blocked him. But I didn't. I still had this little glimmer of hope in me because he used to say to me, in a moment of rage, he would say, "Oh, you're so replaceable. I can replace you tomorrow." And he, like, they're an awful thing to say to someone. And then, you know, I would leave or, you know, we'd fight and I'd leave. And then the next day he would say, "Oh, you know, Millie, you know you're not replaceable. You know that." Like, and he would still make me feel like I was special. Mm-hmm. And so I still held on to that up until, you know, and I still struggle with it even today. So I got back to Melbourne around April last year. We were still in touch here and there. It was intermittent between rage and then I would apologise for the shit things I would say, and I'd beg. I was basically begging him to take me back. It was so shameful now when I think about it. And he'd say, "No, I'm happy on my own. You know, I'm doing my own thing. I don't need anyone telling me what to do." But, you know, all the while he's got these other women that he's seeing and working up. So I made the mistake of catching up with him in October last year. Because we used to love going on road trips and going fishing. I mean, I'm vegetarian, but I still like the whole process of fishing, but I'm happy to throw the fish back. I know it's a bit weird, but I just like sitting by the sea or on the pier fishing. Anyway, so he said, "How about we go fishing this weekend?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that'd be amazing." So I was thinking, okay, maybe he's changed. Maybe he does love me and he wants me back. So we went fishing and, look, I ended up staying there. So I ended up staying there the whole weekend. And it was different though. I wasn't on that pedestal anymore. He wasn't love bombing me. He was being polite and he was being his funny self, telling me funny stories and making me laugh. But it wasn't the same as when the initial love bomb happened. And I thought, oh, hang on, maybe this isn't going to work out. Like, I mean, I don't even know why I wanted to get back with him, because seriously, I lost all sense of myself with him. So anyway, so the week after, we'd had maybe a couple of texts during the week after I'd spent the weekend there. And then because he lived so close to me, I thought, he's seeing someone else for sure. So after work, I drove past his house and sure enough, there's another car there, you know, and I just knew it was another female. So I sent him like a rageful text. Like it's embarrassing the level of stalkiness that I went to confirm that he was seeing someone else. I'm really embarrassed about that. And so I sent him like a rageful text at like midnight or whatever, and he responded like later in the day and just said, you know, yeah, we caught up last week, but I'm free to do whatever I please, and yes, I am seeing someone. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, you shouldn't feel embarrassed about it. And I say this to everyone who's been in your situation. If they feel that way, it's because, I mean, you were put on this when pedestals happen and attachment styles happen in your attachment style, and what he was doing, which was pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling.
Yes.
And when you're in a constant state of pushing and pulling, you're always and there's pedestals there, and the way that you saw him, you're constantly grabbing and you're looking upward the whole entire time. So when that situation has been created, you know, you can look at it in the back, and, you know, all of us are embarrassed of the way that we acted. But when it comes down to it, we were conditioned for that to happen. And
yes.
And, you know, I want everyone to look at it in the sense of, like, I mean, you're psychologically conditioned for this specific thing to occur. And even though it might make you cringe about, like, I can't believe that happened and that I did that. But, you know, when you really look at it and are able to stand back, I mean, with the whole story and the pushing and the pulling and how things occurred over time, and then you throw in as well, like, all of the stuff, you know, from before you're in this relationship. I mean, it happened, but there was a reason for it. And you know, I know words are words, and it won't probably change your mind, but I don't think you should be embarrassed, because I know what happened to you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I try not to be embarrassed, but there's a little underlying. Like you said with the cringe, I cringe when I think, you know, and I'm still struggling today because it's hard. He lives around the corner basically from me, and I have apparently, you know, I've seen him with this woman, so they're still together, and there's this underlying. First of all, like, I just felt like I had lost who I am. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm figuring it out now, and your podcast has definitely helped me listening to other people's stories, because then you think, okay, I'm not, like, my story sounds similar but different to other people's, but I'm not crazy. You know, this is what they do. Mm-hmm. But I think when I sent you an email, like, someone described a relationship with a narcissist is like death by paper cuts. And that is how I felt at the end of it. I had completely bled out, but there was no big event, you know, a big stabbing. It was just this constant little nicks, like you say, with the push-pull. It's like a paper cut, and it would just, and I hemorrhaged out, and there was nothing left by the end. And, you know, and I'm still, today, I still struggle with okay, so he's still with this other person, and what is it about her? Is she better than me? Is she skinnier than me? Is she younger? Which she probably is. Prettier. I'm still struggling with that. I'm having therapy, so I'm trying to get myself in a better headspace, and I think the loop is still continuing, but it's probably lessening. Like, from the moment I wake up, it's thoughts of him, and that is probably lessening with the therapy and the hypnotherapy that I'm getting. Yeah, it's a journey.
So how difficult is it to live in the area still? And are you afraid when you leave that you'll run into them? Yes, yeah. So I have, you know, I've gone up to the shopping centre and on a Sunday morning before work, and because I've driven past his house, I know the car. So I saw the car and I saw him driving it with her in the passenger seat, and I was sitting behind them in traffic, and all I wanted to do was ram my car. You know, I had this fleeting moment where I just wanted to, you know, ram my car into them. Mm-hmm. I was just enraged, and I thought, you know, with all the lockdown,
the risk of running into him is probably less because, like the local pub that, you know, we both used to go to, it's got a nice beer garden and, you know, there is a chance that I will see him up there. So it's really tricky living in such close proximity because any car, so she drives a little Volkswagen, little black Volkswagen. So any black Volkswagen that I see on the street, I'll be driving to work and I'll look at the number plate because I know the number plate. It's obsessive, constant thinking, is that her? Is that her? And then if I see a car, because he's got a company car, if I see, you know, I've seen him, he's driven past me when I've been going on a walk, and it just is like that punch in the stomach when I see the car or I see them, you know, and I know he's no good.
I know, but that's difficult to always see. That is like, you know, you tell people like turn off your social media, turn off this, don't look at it. But for you, the social media is right around the corner. So that's very tough and very difficult to deal with. So I really feel for you that just because it's hard. That's I mean, you're still in the epicenter of that. So what does your therapist say about how to go about lessening the obsessive thoughts of it? And like, so how are you working on that?
I think because the loop replay in my head is, what if he is a better what if he's a better man for her? What if it was me that made him the way he was? So that obsessive, she's better than me. Maybe he's changed for her. Like, so that when that thought is ever present, we're doing a switch technique. So every time that thought pops into my head, I'm switch, and I will think of something else. Like I will try and divert my thoughts away from him. Mm-hmm. So it's a constant. Because I said to my therapist, I'm going to be saying switch all day because it's like all day. There'll be sort of this thought of him. And she said, well, if it's all day, it's all day. You need to work at it. You need to do this switch technique. So it's like bang, switch, stop, you know, and then divert. So
are you very much in an anger stage of things? Like you're still like just really angry and rage like in you, or are you at like, is that lessening?
I think it's lessening. I think like when I've seen them in, you know, sitting in traffic in front of me, I was enraged. Mm-hmm. But you know, it is lessening. Like I'm trying I'm having hypnosis every week. It's costing me a fortune. I've spent thousands on therapy to recover from this, and not just this, but things from the past, you know.
But there's some moments probably where like you're having a fine day, and then that memory will pop in your head, and that memory will just get you, boom. Yeah. It's just like a punch in the stomach or a punch to the face, you know. It just takes you back, and so. But I feel like since I found your podcast, and I've been listening to a couple of other bits and pieces, and I'm finding that really helpful to hear people's stories. It makes me feel less alone, and because when with some of my friends, they don't really get it, and they're like, "Oh, it's God, well, you still going on about him? Just let it go, move on," you know. And they don't get it. They don't understand how this completely broke me. But then my best friend, she gets it, and I can talk to her anytime, and she gets it. So with the hypnosis, are you doing specific trauma a moment, or is it like trauma as a whole, or that you kind of attack when you're doing the hypnosis? And are you also, I guess, do you guys go over like whatever your issues are before coming into a relationship to work on that specifically?
Yeah, so I've been having hypnosis probably pretty much. So I caught up with him in October. It all fell apart within a few weeks, this ideal that I thought we were, maybe going to work it out. And so I think I started hypnosis around November last year. Mm-hmm. So I've been going regularly. And initially, yes, we have dealt with more so the stuff from my childhood, because at the crux of it, I think how I feel about myself and being vulnerable to someone like him really does go back to how I feel about myself and how I grew up, and how I viewed the world. Mm-hmm. So the therapist, I feel like I've dealt with this trauma from the past, and we've, worked through those moments, those particular moments that were quite traumatic. So I feel like I'm doing well with regards to that. And so now the last few sessions we have been focusing on him, and my obsessive thoughts about him. And it's helping. It's definitely helping, because my therapist changed, because the one I was originally seeing left the clinic. And so this new therapist, I've only seen her, I think this week will be my 4th time seeing her. And I thought, geez, all right, I'm going to go in and I need to deal with this situation with how I'm feeling about him. So I went in and I said, look, I've spent thousands of dollars. Yes, it's been helpful with my thing, with my history as a kid. We've worked through that. I said, but this thing with, I said, do you know what a narcissist is? And have you ever dealt with them? And she said to me, I was married to one. So I was like, okay, this lady gets it. So now I feel comfortable with her because she knows what I'm talking about. She's lived it. Mm-hmm. And so she's helping me. And I feel like, I may not sound like I'm getting there, but I feel like I am. I feel more positive. I'm making plans with friends to go on road trips and, and I'm getting out and going like on little adventures by myself and just drive for a couple of hours to a national park and go and walk and sit and write and just do things that I enjoy. So I'm getting there, and my obsessive thoughts are not 24/7 about him anymore. So it's it's baby steps, but I feel like I'm getting there. Mm-hmm. Do I sound like I am?
I think you are. And
yeah.
What is your, I guess, within yourself, with everything that's gone on, I guess, was your self-esteem the biggest thing for you mm-hmm. throughout the whole entire process from growing up and with him?
Yeah.
So within the self-esteem issue, what is, I guess, like is it being good enough? Is it?
Yeah. Yes.
And as far as being in a relationship and feeling, am I good enough? Your mindset before was, I'm not getting any younger. I want to, I want to be with someone. Is that even something that you even think about anymore, or is it more focused on you?
Okay, so yeah, the self-esteem, no self-esteem, and for as long as I remember, I was not good enough. I wasn't wanted as a baby, so I was given up for adoption. My adopted father was an evil pedophile who didn't love me. I wasn't good enough. My husband had an affair. That's because I'm not good enough. I was with the narc and he didn't fight for me. because I'm not good enough. So now these thoughts, when these thoughts are ever present or, they're there, it's a switch. Stop. You are good enough. You are worthy. You are a good person. So now those negative thoughts about how I feel about myself, it's a process. It's a constant thing. I have to tell myself I am worthy. I am good enough. I have tried the dating side, just briefly dipped my toe in there and went on a couple of dates, but I don't think, even if someone was nice, I don't think I'm in the right place to, be getting involved with, I wouldn't know a good person if I fell over them, to be honest. I don't. It's
it's all like you're still in a state of, I'm not going to say confusion, but I guess you don't trust yourself to make the right decision. Would that be fair?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, I could... everyone's a narcissist now.
But I guess the part about trust would be, just creating boundaries that are very hard boundaries and being aware of, this behavior just box was checked. I'm gone. Like, I'm not even waiting for a response. I don't care if you are a good guy, I'm gone. Yeah. Like that, no. Like, it's a hard no on all those things.
I think I'm way more attuned to, I may be even a little over the, like someone could be a really good person and I might hear something and I'm, no, yeah, everyone's a narcissist now. And I constantly talk to, girls, the people at work and I'm like, and some of the psych patients that would come in and I'd say, they've got narcissistic traits or whatever. Like, it's like this whole new world that I didn't know existed prior. A narcissist, I'd heard the word before. I didn't really know what it was. And it wasn't until one of the girls at work said, when I was in the relationship still, she said, like I would go in and I'd be like, I know they could see I was upset and I just wasn't myself. And I would tell one of my friends and she'd say, he sounds like a narcissist. And I was like, what? What is that? And then I Googled it and it was like, one of those sites, 7 signs or whatever. Mm-hmm. I can't even remember now, but he ticked every box. And I was like, oh, my God, what is this? And then it started. And I think when my awareness of this is when I started sort of fighting back with him and not tolerating his crap. I don't know. It's, yeah.
Well, you're here. You made it. You were,
I am.
You went through a lot, and you raised 2 boys.
Yeah.
Who are good guys.
Yes. They are good, kind.
At a very young age, you helped your mom, put food on the table and house yourselves, and you created a career and a path all by yourself. So these are a lot of things that you might not see, and that you did your whole entire life.
I know, yeah, and they are the things that I need to focus on. My brain gets to that negativity, and it is it's a switch. Stop. You are worthy. You are good enough. So that's just the constant. And since I've been really strict with that, I actually have seen an improvement in myself. Like, I do feel a little more confident and I'm not walking with my head down so much, and and I'm interacting more comfortably with people, and and your podcast has helped me to no end. It really has, and thank you. Just listening to someone's stories, it's just heartbreaking but also helpful.
So before we end off the show, is there any words of wisdom for anyone out there that you want anyone to know?
You are worthy and you are good enough, and don't put your happiness, how you feel inside, in another person's hands, or depend on them to make you happy. Find that happiness in yourself, I guess.
Well, Amelia, I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing this episode, being on the other side of the planet than me, and syncing up our times. I really appreciate it, and I know this episode is going to help a lot of people. So thank you.
Oh, I hope so.
For being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. And for everyone else out there who is listening, I hope you have a good night.